Hello, my friends. Hello. How are you? Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for hanging out. My name is Jason, and this is the Outstanding Life Show. This is hanging out, being cool. We're chatting about all things related to mental health. We're talking about addiction. We're talking about overcoming adversity. These are all things that are close to my heart. These are all things that have influenced me as a person that's surviving 2020, and that's part of what we're chatting about today. Actually, we'll dip into the topics lightly, and then I'll talk about what I've learned from yesterday's show. If you joined us yesterday, perfect. That's awesome. You were able to. I shared a little bit about what I've been working on in the background and how I'm gearing up for what's new and exciting, what I'm hoping to do with the show. And these are all fun and exciting things, and these are all positive. Today, I wanted to dip into a topic about something that's a little more, I would say, sensitive, but it's not everybody's cup of tea. And what I mean by that is not everybody is open to talking about certain things. Not everybody wants to talk about. Hold on, adjust the volume. Not everyone wants to chat about certain things, and when it comes to addiction, like the topic by itself is crazy. It's deep, it's heavy. Not everybody is open to that kind of conversation. And part of the purpose of this show, part of the purpose of sharing this message and getting it out there is to help normalize some of these topics. It's to help get the conversation going. And by getting the conversation out in a healthy, constructive way, that can help bridge that stigmatism, because the stigmatism is out there. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that even though I might have had numerous conversations with people about, in the heat of my addiction, in the heat of my challenges, there was conversations that people tried to have with me, but I wasn't open to having those. And the purpose of this show isn't to equip somebody to how to approach that conversation, but the purpose of this show is to help bridge that understanding, to help fill that gap of there's another side out there, there's another piece of the puzzle, and what somebody's thinking and what somebody's going through can be different, and what mental health means for you might be different than what mental health means for me. The same challenges for you may not be the same challenges for me, but we all excel in different ways. We know that, but we also struggle in our own unique ways. And there's a little bit of empathy that's there, and there's a little bit of gratitude. And part of today's topic also dips into the gratitude component, but we also dig into some guilt. And what I mean by guilt is there's in today's what's happened in the past 6 months, 7 months now. It seems like it's been 10 years since everything started falling apart until it feels like it's been forever and a day, where all these challenges have seemed to unfolded. And just when I thought, okay, this is difficult and this is challenging, then there's another layer that's put on top, and that stressor then pushes it a little bit further. And the example I gave in a previous stream was the straw that broke the camel's back. And you can layer one stressor on top of another stressor on top of another stressor, and I might be able to manage that. I might be able to manage. I was chatting with one of my friends the other day, and we were talking about balancing those. We talked before previously about hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. And if I make a decision out of hunger, or if I'm feeling hungry and I'm also probably feeling angry, that terminology like hangry. So if I'm feeling hangry and I'm about to have a sensitive conversation with somebody, I probably may not be in the best mindset. Similarly, if I'm feeling lonely or if I'm feeling tired. So there are these different mood mood swing. I want to call them game changers, where if I'm feeling any one of those emotions and I start making decisions, that's probably not the best decision to make. Like I shouldn't go shopping for groceries when I'm hungry because I'm probably going to buy half the store. I'm going to hit the candy aisle 3 days after Halloween, and I'm going to be loading up on all the sugar things that I shouldn't be eating. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a candy bar or two, but what I'm saying is if I have candy bars 8 times a day per meal, I'm probably not going to have a healthy, happy, balanced diet, and I'm probably going to have a little bit of a mood swing. So making these decisions out of those, I would say knee jerk reactions is not the best mindset to be in. So when I was having this conversation with my friend about how is it that I'm able to manage how I've been able to navigate these past few months, much less these last 3 months out of the last seven, I would say has been more challenging than the first 3 months of the past seven. In the first 3 months, I would say it's it was saddening, and I say saddening with like with I almost want to call it when you see a lot of your friends and your family all start suffering all at the same time. And one thing about social media, and I love being able to stay connected with my friends. And if you watched yesterday's, or if you listened to yesterday's show, or if you're watching the video, that's great. If you're listening to this, that's awesome. But it's seeing how people can stay connected is rewarding and it's heartfelt and it's amazing. But on the flip side of that, when you start seeing your friends and your family cascading in numbers where they're all being impacted negatively by what's happening out there, it starts to have an impact on you. And it was I was very thankful that I was able to build up a solid foundation. I'm very thankful that I've been able to help formulate that resilience due to this recovery, this getting to know myself, balancing those hungry, angry, lonely, and tired years of. I just hit my 8 years of sobriety, and that was just on the 25th of October. So I'm like 8 years and like 7 days or something crazy. So I'm really coming off the curve of that. But in the years leading up to all this, there's been some challenging times that I never thought I would be able to get through. And I never thought I would be able to survive. And despite how challenging those times were and how challenging these times are right now, I feel like I've been able to help develop that sense of confidence, that sense of self-worth, that sense of I would say stability, but that's probably not the right way to describe it. I've been able to have a milestone or two or eight under my belt. And now I'm in a position where I look at this ever changing landscape that's in front of me, and it can be challenging. It can be hard. And the first few months of this, the first 3 months specifically, it was just seeing devastating blow to another devastating blow. This time it's to your friend, this time it's to your boss, and this time it's to your friend who happens to be your boss. And then it's really hard. And I those I would say losses would start to stack up, and I as a knee jerk reaction, and I don't know if you can relate to this. I don't know if this is something that speaks to you or if I'm just out on my own, but there's a point where I started to feel like these things that are happening to other people have not yet happened to me. Like if there's a bunch of my friends, there's a lot of my friends who were put on leave, and those were really uncertain times. And admittedly, they still are current uncertain times. But there was this fearful moment in the beginning when the news was coming out every 3.5 minutes. There was like horrible story after horrible story, and then my friends on social media were posting things that were happening to them, and that was gut wrenching, and my heart went out to them. And I started to sense that there's a sense of survivor's guilt where I've been fortunate enough that I've been able to keep active and keep busy, and still able to continue working. And for that, I'm ever grateful. But I'm also ever grateful that I've been able to. I'm not saying I've been prepared for this, but what I'm saying is I'm recalling on some of these lessons due to the nature of the structure of the 12 steps, the structure of having a supportive community, the structure of being able to tap into your resilience, the structure of having that sense of elasticity. Is that the right word I'm thinking of? Being flexible, being flexible in my approach. I've I had to test those exact same lessons that I thought I had those down pat. I thought I had those all squared away. And then 2020 comes along and then it challenges you in one way and then two ways and then 17 different ways. And then just like those stressors we talked about earlier where they start to layer on. And yes, they're challenging, but there's also that moment where I started to experience a sense of guilt. I started to experience a sense of, I would say, loss. I want to call it a grave loss. It's not the right terminology, I know, but I would see my friends and my family all impacted by this, and especially at work. And I know not all industries are the same, and I know not all governments are the same, but not everything has worked out the same for everybody. And when a large majority of your friends are let go or put on leave, and you are not, that kind of that when your team goes from a large down to a handful, you start to piece that together. And there was a point. Just speaking personally for a minute, there was a point where I thought I tried to like convince myself where, and I don't know if this speaks to you or you can relate to this, where I started to think to myself, Jason, if you just work hard enough, if you put your hockey stick to the ground, if you keep your nose in your head held high, you know what I mean? If you do those things and you do it for so long, eventually those small little wins, they're all going to add up and you're going to be able to bring a lot of your friends back from leave. You're going to be able to bring them all back and you're going to be able to go and make a difference and you're going to go and and that was something I would tell myself. And then more of my friends were let go and more of my coworkers were told they're not coming back. And then more were let go, and then more were told they're not coming back. And these things now start to weigh heavy. And it started to weigh heavy because of I was seeking, I almost want to call it validation. I was looking for that sense of if I were to do this, then the result will be that. And I was reducing what was happening outside to being rounded up into that small little equation. And I know there's no way you can combine 2020 into an equation, but this is what I was trying to convince myself. This was my survivor's guilt making decisions for me, kind of like my hangry emotion making decisions for me while I go shopping at the grocery store. So it's never good when these things can happen. But these were the I was starting to condition myself. I was starting to get into a habit of, Jason, if you just work hard enough, you're gonna make all this go away. And eventually one day it's all gonna be reversed and put back to normal. And then when that started to not happen, I started to feel as if and this sounds really mean, and this sounds really um what's the opposite of supportive? Like this is not conducive to my recovery, where I would start feeling down. I would start to feel sad, not just from what's happening, but from the reasoning I was telling myself, for the condition I was trying to tell myself, where this wasn't working. If what I'm doing is trying to get that validation through all this work, and then if the only way I'm measuring success is by how many of my friends I'm bringing back to work, technically that amount is not going to really change all that much. So it's probably not a good measurement of success. So So what I'm getting at though is, was the approach of Survivor's Guild bad? No. Was the solution, like the actions that I'm doing, was helping everyone I can, was that also bad? No. What was what wasn't working was, it was my approach to measuring success. And when I shift my focus, because Tony Robbins talks about shifting your focus a lot. And if you've watched the show in the past, you know how much I really appreciate the Tony Robbins mantra, his approach to things, and how he's always modeling other people's behaviors, but he's also pushing his boundaries. And so I've looked up to Tony Robbins for quite some time, and one of his things he focuses on is shifting your focus. And if something is happening in the moment and it's not getting the result we want, is it because of the is it because of us? And is it because of the way we're approaching it? Or is there another way to approach it? Is there another way we can phrase this? I was reading this book called Principles by Ray Dalio, and he mentioned something similar. He talks about the entertaining the idea that you were wrong. And then Ray Dalio's book, he says, we know you're not wrong, but let's pretend for a minute you were. And if you were wrong, how would you be wrong if you were wrong? And so, looking at this pandemic and looking at the Survivors Guild and looking at just trying to help as many people as I can along the way, if all I do is measure success based on that measurement of how many people are coming back to work or how many of my friends I'm like, these things are not the right way to measure success. And I'm not saying I'm not I think what I was reaching for in the beginning was trying to find a way to make sense of things. I mean, the human brain always wants to rationalize something, or to connect the dots when there's no picture, when there's a big mess and you want to look at it and you want to find a solution. And I think what I was trying to do at the beginning was a way to convince myself to just keep going, to just keep just white knuckle my way through it, like my early stages of recovery, just like year 1 through 5 kind of thing, when it was really tough and it was really hard those first couple of years. And now I look back and I've tested, I've had my emotions tested. I've had my what is it, my hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. I've been tested on all those different levels on more than one way, and I've started to manage my expectations and manage my approaches towards the solutions that I'm after. And it's really put me into a perspective, who I spend my time with, who I connect with, who I listen to. And one thing I started to do was start to appreciate that, what I've been doing may not be the best way of doing it. And in being open to the idea of being wrong and being open to the idea of growing, I've been able to push my boundaries and actually learn more about who I am or what I want, or this show and what I want to, how I want to make it better, how I want to, what outcomes I'm after, and how I want to get there. I found this community of podcasters, and they're doing this challenge, and it's every month or every day this month. They want to go and do a podcast. And I thought, I can do that. I have really no idea how it's going to turn out, but I'm interested in the outcome. I'm interested in the journey, and I want to find out more about it. So I'm approaching it from a curious standpoint. So well, yes, I can't stop 2020 from happening and I can't stop the challenges from showing up. I can feel grateful and I can approach life from a gratitude first perspective rather than a survivor's guilt knee jerk response. The knee jerk responses are okay, and it's okay to have these emotions like the hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. They're not wrong. But what can be wrong is when we start making decisions out of those emotions. And I call those the knee jerk responses. No good has ever come from angry Jason or lonely Jason or frustrated Jason, or these are examples of what what part of me is feeling this way in the moment that I recognize I'm having those feelings. What part of me is feeling angry right now? You know, what part of me is feeling hungry? Well, I know what part of me is feeling hungry, but what part of me is, I mean, what decisions led up to that outcome where I'm feeling hungry right now? Is it because I didn't spend Sunday doing my meal prep? You know, am I feeling tired because I didn't exercise that day and hit my steps or get my, get my stand? You gotta walk your steps, get your 10,000 steps in your little the Apple Watch, the little check mark, you get the bling. So these are things where these are small, tiny milestones that add up to a lot. These small, tiny rewards can help make a difference, be it getting up out of bed, reaching out to a friend, saying hello, be it starting a podcast or shooting a video at like 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. Now that we have daylight savings time, it's crazy. Okay, I'm just taking a look at, yes, all right. Well, my friends, it's been a whirlwind of a 2020. I'm thankful and I'm filled with gratitude that I have the opportunity to be able to reach out to you and connect with you. Either if you're listening to this, that's great. And if you're watching, that's amazing. What I do with these is just a background. I am taking the audio version of this, and then I'm capturing that and I'm sending that up through. So I'm using this as a podcast. I'm also using a video, and then I'm streaming that to Facebook. I'm also going to be doing this, and I have it actually. If you want to follow along, if you go to the website sobriety.live/now, and this is a URL where it's almost like a link, a list of links, and it's got everything that I have coming up. Where I have, if you go to sobriety.live/now, here we have, I've got a gift of 30 days to calm.com, where it's a link that I get nothing out of, but it's just giving you 30 days of calm.com. There's also, if you're into live meditation, I have a link as well for peaceinside.live. And these guys do Zoom meetings and they do live meditations. And since the pandemic opened up, they're giving it away. It's like a by donation, which is amazing. And then there's, in a previous stream, I did talk about Coursera, and they're offering free. They have free courses. There's a select handful of courses, but there's a whole bunch of them. Everything from mental health to mindfulness, and those are free until December 31st. And so I've got the link here as well. So again, those links, I've captured them all, in addition to the link to the podcast, in addition to the link to where all the videos are and the blogs. So I've got everything there under the same URL. And that is again sobriety.live/now. And then something you're interested in, feel free to go and check them out. Again, these are not benefiting me in any way. These are just really cool links that I found that has helped me, and it's helped me shape my focus. And I quit watching the news like on week 3, and I started focusing on. I signed up to one of those master classes. I started working on my calm.com meditations, and I started filling my time with constructive, healthy, happy, and productive. I don't want to call them time wasters, but rather than wasting my time, I'll invest that same time in something that pushes me outside of my comfort zone, like this podcast, like this video. In the meantime, friends, thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support. It has been challenging, it has been difficult, but there's a lot of support that's out there, and there's more than one way to approach a solution. And having some resilience and having some sense of empathy for ourselves and for the other person that's out there, it can go a long way. You know, I'm not the same person I was 8 years ago, And I don't expect I'm going to be the same person that I am now in 8 more years. But I'm not going to get there if I take a linear approach to everything. I'm not going to get there if I have a like a pinpointed focus on what my expectations are and how things must be met. I got to have some flexibility in how I approach things. Otherwise, I'm just going to stress myself out. I'm just going to get more gray hairs. Like I've got a few coming in already. But anyway, my friends, enough about me. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being a part of this. The podcast, the national podcast, NADPO. Oh, I'm saying it wrong. NADPOMO. They are doing every day this month. They're doing a podcast, and there's a group of us all deciding. Let's just do it. Let's just go ahead and we'll put it out there. I'm learning as I go, so I'm very new to this audio side of things, and I really hope to learn from everyone and grow this. And I hope you're going to be along for the journey as well. In the meantime, friends, you take care. You have fun. And I look forward to seeing you in another one. All right. Take care. Bye.